Church doors slammed shut behind her, and in a single breath, my entire future collapsed. 1 minute earlier, I had been standing beneath an arch of white roses, waiting for the woman I thought I would spend my life with. The guests were smiling, the orchestra was playing softly under the bright afternoon sun, and my hands trembled with nervous excitement. Then my best man rushed toward me, pale and speechless, carrying a folded note that changed everything. My bride had vanished moments before the ceremony, leaving behind only a few heartbreaking words. The whispers began instantly. Faces that had been glowing with joy twisted into shock and pity. And just when I thought humiliation had swallowed me whole, someone stepped quietly beside me and whispered words that would alter the course of my life forever. "I'll marry you, if you're willing." Before we continue, take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Echoes if you believe that kindness and second chances can change someone's destiny. Stories like this remind us that sometimes life's greatest blessings arrive disguised as heartbreak. My name is Adrian Mercer, and until that day, I believed everything in my life was perfectly planned. I had spent 3 years building a future with Serena Whitmore, a woman whose laughter had once filled every corner of my world. We had met at a charity fundraiser downtown, fallen in love beneath city lights and endless conversations, and promised one another forever. Our wedding day was supposed to be the beginning of that forever. The ceremony took place on a warm spring afternoon at a vineyard just outside the city. Golden sunlight spilled across rows of flowers, and hundreds of white petals covered the aisle. Friends and family had traveled from every corner of the country to witness our vows. Yet, 20 minutes before the ceremony, Serena disappeared. Her bridesmaids searched every room. Her mother cried in confusion. Her father paced the courtyard in disbelief. Then came the note. It was painfully brief. Serena wrote that she was sorry, that she could not go through with the wedding, and that she had realized too late that she wanted a different life. There was no explanation beyond that. No goodbye. No promise to return. Just a few sentences that shattered everything I believed. I remember standing there in my suit, unable to breathe. Guests stared with sympathy while others exchanged uncomfortable glances. My parents tried to comfort me, but their words barely reached me through the ringing in my ears. Months of planning, years of love, and every dream I had carefully built had collapsed in front of everyone I knew. As I stepped away from the altar and into the garden behind the chapel, I felt something I had never experienced before: complete emptiness. I sat alone on a stone bench, staring at the fountain, wondering how life could change so violently in a matter of minutes. That was when Serena's younger sister, Celeste Whitmore, found me. Unlike her sister, Celeste had always been quiet and thoughtful. She worked as a pediatric nurse and spent most family gatherings helping others rather than seeking attention. Throughout the wedding preparations, she had been kind without ever becoming involved in the chaos. She sat beside me in silence for several minutes, allowing me space to process the disaster unfolding around us. Finally, she admitted something that stunned me. She confessed that Serena had been uncertain for weeks but had hidden her doubts from everyone. Celeste had tried to convince her to speak honestly before things reached this point, but Serena had refused. The guilt in Celeste's eyes was almost as painful as my own heartbreak. Then, after a long pause, she looked toward the ceremony and quietly whispered the words I would never forget. She told me that she could not erase what had happened, but she could not bear to watch two families destroyed by selfishness and fear. She said that despite everything, she had always admired my loyalty, my kindness, and the way I treated people. Then, almost trembling, she offered something unimaginable. She said she would marry me if I believed there was still a chance to build something meaningful from the ruins. At first, I thought grief had clouded my judgment. The suggestion felt impossible, almost absurd. Yet when I looked into Celeste's eyes, I saw no pity and no desperation. I saw sincerity. I saw someone trying to save not a wedding, but two broken hearts from drowning in humiliation. We did not rush into a decision. The ceremony was cancelled, and guests slowly drifted away, carrying stories they would retell for years. Reporters from local newspapers even called, hoping to turn our tragedy into entertainment. Meanwhile, I retreated into isolation. The following weeks became the darkest period of my life. I stopped answering calls. I ignored messages. Every photograph from the wedding felt like a knife twisting deeper into old wounds. Yet through all of it, Celeste remained present. She brought food to my apartment when I forgot to eat. She sat with my mother when she worried about me. She never pressured me to talk about that impossible conversation in the garden. Slowly, our friendship deepened. Summer arrived, and for the first time in months, I found myself laughing again. Celeste and I spent afternoons walking through the city park, sharing stories about our childhoods and dreams we had abandoned. She confessed how often she had felt invisible growing up beside Serena's bright personality. I admitted how deeply betrayal had changed me. Neither of us pretended to have answers. One evening, nearly 6 months after the wedding disaster, we returned to the vineyard where everything had fallen apart. The flowers had changed with the season, and the pain no longer felt as sharp. Standing beneath the same archway where my life had once collapsed, I realized something unexpected. My feelings for Celeste were real, not born from heartbreak or loneliness, but from months of trust, patience, and genuine affection. We married the following spring in a small daytime ceremony by the lake, surrounded only by close family and friends. There were no grand decorations, no expensive orchestra, and no expectations of perfection. The sunlight danced across the water as we exchanged vows written entirely by hand. For the first time, I understood that love was not built through elaborate promises or picture-perfect moments. It was built through quiet acts of loyalty during life's hardest days. Years passed, and together we created the family neither of us had imagined possible. Celeste continued her work as a nurse, and I opened my own architectural firm. We welcomed 2 children into our lives and filled our home with laughter, forgiveness, and traditions born from difficult beginnings. As strange as it sounds, Serena's decision eventually became the turning point that led both of us toward the lives we were truly meant to live. She moved overseas and built a different future, while Celeste and I discovered that sometimes the people standing quietly in the background are the ones who understand us most deeply. Special request: if you have ever experienced heartbreak, betrayal, or an unexpected second chance, share your story in the comments below. Someone reading it may find hope because of your words. As I look back on that devastating afternoon, I no longer remember the humiliation or the whispers from the crowd. Instead, I remember the courage of one woman who stepped forward when everyone else stepped away. I remember the kindness that appeared in the middle of my worst day. And I remember learning that life does not always give us the ending we planned, but sometimes, it gives us an ending far more beautiful. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Echoes. Your support allows us to continue sharing stories of love, resilience, and the extraordinary power of second chances. Because sometimes, when one door closes at the altar, another quietly opens toward a future you never dared to imagine.